the future of Bitcoin. We heard how it's scaling. We heard about things like how to make Bitcoin productive. In the future, there's going to be DeFi on Bitcoin and NFTs and all these things. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, I think. Here today, we have people working in, I guess you could call it like not the Bitcoin world necessarily, the TradFi world, people with a TradFi background. And perhaps as a reality check, let's see if we can discuss here where we're at right now with Bitcoin. So if we could just start off, could you guys just briefly describe what you're doing in your businesses?
Sure. Hey everyone, Sagun from Bank Julius Baer as part of the Global Innovation Group. I lead technology engineering in my day-to-day role. We look at quite a bit of use cases around looking at Bitcoin, Lightning, and also enterprise custody. And also recently, I think what's kind of kicked off our imagination on the tokenization side is the whole stablecoins piece that's kind of come out. So stablecoins, Bank of America announcing stablecoins is going to be very interesting. So there's a lot of TradFi now trying to look at how the modern world of finance could potentially look like. And I think that's super interesting for us from an innovation standpoint. We're a 130-year-old bank, and for us to future-proof, the only way is to kind of go further and adapt and into this modern world of finance.
Hello, my name is Levi. I'm representing Remix Point. I'm an advisor there. Yes, it's been interesting this past day and in this afternoon also. Even at the main stage, there's a lot of discussion about not just governments but enterprises that are focused on Bitcoin. And Remix Point, in the past 6 months, we acquired about 600 Bitcoin in Japan. We're based in Japan. We're proud to be ranked in the top 30 enterprises, listed enterprises around the globe with treasury in Bitcoin. So there's 3 public companies in Japan that are in the top 30, and we're one of them.
All right, thank you. So, Levi, could you just unpack a little bit more about, okay, so Remix Point, they've acquired some Bitcoin for the treasury. What's the point of that?
Okay. So I think enterprises, there's a lot of different reasons for each company, but for us, it's not just about the treasury. It's not just about holding Bitcoin. Some other companies, we know they acquire Bitcoin for several phases, like they just acquire, but our strategy is more we think it's just a part of our corporate strategy is to have Bitcoin that'll lead us into a new realm, like doing businesses with something out of the traditional finances with new Web3 companies or projects. And it's not just about like leveraging Bitcoin or hedging against something. It's just a normal part of our corporate strategy.
Okay, thanks. So Sagun, could you tell me, is that Sagun? Yeah?
That's right.
Could you tell me how your clients are thinking about Bitcoin today?
So I think with this whole 16 years into the play, and like it becoming a part of the mainstream narrative last year as part of the ETFs, I think what has happened is that a lot of fence sitters, or I would say a lot of people who were skeptic about the funny internet money, that got really legitimized last year. And effectively, you would have a lot of wealth clients now look at it very seriously to kind of see how they can potentially bake it as part of their portfolio. So Julius Baer, since 2019, via one of its companies that it has stake in, which is Seba Amina Bank, they kind of have been offering Bitcoin and cryptos along since last 6 years. But the question now is, with this latest adoption of Bitcoin on the ETF sides, and now as part of the sovereign discussion, which is as part of the reserves, the whole question goes back to a lot of people holding wealth. Is this going to become like the apex hodling asset as part of the portfolio. And the question today for anybody to understand is that where should the allocation strategy start? So I think it's very important to also understand that this question of how much allocation is generally reverse solicited from the clients, because in the jurisdictions of Europe and Asia, you cannot sell by soliciting this with clients directly. The interest has to come from the clients in the first place to be able to kind of have that kind of discussion with our relationship managers also. So I would say from a regulatory clarity standpoint, probably rest of the world from US is T plus 12 months away, because the kind of regulatory clarity we have seen in the US is still not present here in terms of how, as a financial instrument and as financial advisory, how do we kind of pursue this from a wealth advisory standpoint. But I think it's very promising in terms of how the customers are coming to us and potentially inquiring about this. And then there are ways of allocating these assets. I mean, we could start off with easily by giving them an ETF to have a certain percentage of the allocation, or we could recommend them a Bitcoin security like an equity, like an MSTR or a Metaplanet or a Remix Point, depending on how our investment houses believe and have a thesis on some of these companies. But that's a good way to start. In terms of effectively going and holding Bitcoin, I think it is a case-to-case, I would say risk persona basis. Risk suitability is a very important factor in this for us. So we accordingly kind of give guidance by our relationship managers.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that your clients are looking at Bitcoin as a speculative asset. Now, a lot of people talk about, okay, like Bitcoin is going to be used for P2P payments. We're going to use it in the real world. Are either of you seeing any of that in your businesses?
Okay. Yeah, it kind of relates to the last panel we were listening to, but I don't, honestly, I'm kind of skeptical about that in the next 1 or 2 years because we're just starting with like national reserves in Bitcoin and also enterprises having treasuries in Bitcoin. And I think we still have a long ways to go for it to be sort of used in like normal everyday transactions. But like the last panel, they talked about they are working. There's been like major developments over the past year or two, and we can't neglect that. So I know there's been major developments, but I think there's still a long ways to go. And I think the national reserves and the treasuries of enterprises, that's kind of different from the using it in normal day transactions. But I think from Remix Point's view, that in order to use that Bitcoin for normal day transactions, you have and use it in our business, we have to have it on our hands so that we kind of get a head start. So we have it on our hands and then we work from there.
Okay, so you've taken the first steps. Get some Bitcoin.
Yes.
Anything to add, Sagun?
Yeah. So I think at a financial institution TradFi level, it's probably very early to kind of say Lightning adoption, because the Bitcoin adoption cycle is what is starting right now at institutional level. So they're trying to understand regulatory clarity, technical know-how of how to even kind of manage. So typically it happens in 3 waves. So the first wave is the Bitcoin hodling part. The second wave is then it becomes like a payment play. The third wave, that on top of that is a unit of account. So I start thinking, and these are like 10, 15 year waves. These are not like, so before it becomes a payment network, it will have to become a hodling asset in the first place. But I think what we are seeing is a lot of retail movement around a lot of POS machines across the globe. So not necessarily at a institution TradFi level, but at merchants level, there is a good enough evidence of a lot of Lightning enabled POS machines. Like practically us at an individual level, whichever Bitcoin conferences we go, we end up purchasing the merchandise, even the coffee, with sats, with Bitcoin. You can easily do that in any of the major conferences today. This is not a utopia. It happens. Like I've been doing this for like 2.5 years. You can easily do it. So not that Lightning payments has not taken off. It has. It has definitely proven the technology. It is there. The question is now the size and the volume of payments that can come with participation of TradFi. And I think that's a function of first holding and using it as part of the treasury operations. Then comes the second question of settling them and bartering them for something in terms of commercial transactions. So I think it's on the way. It's, I think, a matter of 2-3 years where it really becomes more interesting from a TradFi perspective, where it starts challenging the incumbent networks like Swift and Fix protocol, right, which typically is used to kind of settle global e-commerce. So yeah.
Okay, so I think that leads to the next question, which is, do you see Bitcoin as being an integral part of the global financial system in the near future?
Yeah, for the global financial system, definitely I see it being part of the near future. I mean, I think on a basis like nation states and global international economy, it'll be part of it. I think there's still a long way for it to be introduced into the retail businesses. But for like B2B exchanges, I think it's not that too long away.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would rather reframe my comment on that question is that it's already part of the global ecosystem. The fact that everybody is talking about it as a hedge against currency devaluation in this tariff discussion, the fact that there is a nation-state adoption that has been kickstarted by none other than one of the biggest anchoring countries, which is US, with an executive order already to kind of create a stash. So I think it's already part of the discussion. The question is more about how fast and how early will it be adopted across the world as a countermeasure by other countries. I think that's the question now. I think the cat is already out of the bag in terms of adoption of Bitcoin and legitimizing it from an institutional or a nation-state standpoint. I think it's already there.
Okay, just going back a second. So again, we heard on the last panel, Bitcoin L2s. There's all these solutions people are talking about in the future. I'm just wondering, from either of your businesses, are you looking into those solutions at this point, or is that just still like that's on the horizon? That's still quite a ways away.
So we work a lot on the innovation side. I come from the innovation group myself on the technology engineering side. And I think for us to be able to look at the Horizon 2 and Horizon 3 of how things play out. So we are definitely looking at some of these L2s, assessing capabilities of Lightning. Like I said earlier, how stablecoins is going to play out. I think that's going to be a big play. Like all the banks in US have started now talking about issuing their own respective stablecoins. They've started realizing that this could be a 101 playbook for reinventing the banking business model. So I think from that perspective, it's becoming very interesting for us to kind of explore, discover, and look at some of these. I mean, obviously, we toy with some of these technologies. We do some POCs. But I think that's the lead indicator from our side in terms of looking interested in this kind of technology. But the lag indicator is to kind of look at the maturity of the regulation to enable some of these things. So we have to keep an eye on both to kind of see how the rubber hits the road in terms of the speed of executing some of this as new product offerings or new payment methods, or in fact new ways of kind of building wealth products as well. So we're very, very, very up there trying to work on this to try and see and kind of take advantage of this opportunity that come along the way.
So you're looking at both regulation and tech. You're keeping an eye on both of them.
Has to be. Otherwise, it's just curiosity driving some engineering excitement. I think at the end of the day, the business looks for capabilities that can be implemented within the organization to move the mandate of wealth management forward. And that's what Julius Baer is about.
Yeah, just to go on that, as a publicly listed company, we are pretty much in favor of regulation. Because regulation offers a framework for us to safely use the new technology and the new currencies. And I feel that this using Bitcoin in that sort of regulatory framework offers us, like you said, we can, because we're publicly listed, our way of getting financing ourselves is through our stocks. But this new cryptocurrency and the new technology that goes with it, it offers us another way for us to raise money and it's a new corporate strategy for us.
Okay, so as let's call you guys TradFi folks. Do you see yourself as playing a role in the evolution of the regulation of the Bitcoin realm?
I mean, obviously there is quite a bit of industry participation in terms of different jurisdictions, especially like globalized banks like ourselves. There is always a good, healthy, strong relationship from recommendations towards the respective regulators in the region. And we do quite a bit of thought leadership with all these regulators in respective jurisdictions when they kind of reach out to us, or otherwise when there are programs. Like in Singapore, we participate quite a bit with MAS in HKMA as well. There is always an industry government dialogue or a regulatory dialogue where we definitely come up with ideas and share with them to kind of see how we can move this forward, how we can enable this forward, and probably borrow some ideas from other jurisdictions where something has been implemented. So there is always an opportunity to contribute as an industry partner.
Is there anything missing right now that you'd really like to see?
Not. I think we're going in a good direction. Like concerning regulators, what was missing 2 or 3 years ago was case studies that were like succeeding, and now we have more companies, more listed companies, and now countries that are investing in Bitcoin and that are succeeding, and that they're not doing anything fishy or illegal. And I think regulators are pretty hesitant, and I think the U.S. has taken a big step as setting a precedent, and I think a lot of countries and regulators want to see some evidence that it actually works. And now that we're seeing it actually works in publicly listed companies or banks investing in this cryptocurrency, that's what they wanted. I think it's moving in a good way right now.
Okay, nice to hear. All right, for our last question here today, could each of you give a bold prediction for how you see Bitcoin in the next 5 years?
Okay. I'll go first. 5 years, you said? Okay.
Yeah, 5 years.
Okay. Well, let's start with 1 or 2 years. I think there'll be a lot of more enterprises that not to the extent like as maybe MicroStrategy or MetaPlanet, but I think there'll be a lot more enterprises that are investing in Bitcoin. I think that'll be a huge amount during 2025. And concerning national treasuries, I'm not sure about that, but at least some of the G7, G20 countries, and maybe some of the developing countries as well, it might be an option for them to explore, and I'll see a lot about that. 5 years from now, I think there'll be a lot of more solutions and options for enterprises to raise money, and there'll be a lot more options to invest for them. And I think the traditional finance will still be there, but it'll just be a lot more options.
Okay, thanks. So what I'm hearing from the first part of your answer there is buy the dip. Now's the chance to buy the dip.
Definitely.
And the second part, I just glossed over that. All I heard was buy the dip. How about you, Sagun?
So yeah, I mean, whatever I say now is not financial advice. I cannot speculate being a bank, but it's important that I say this upfront. So I can talk more from an industry outlook standpoint, like how Bitcoin ends up playing a role. So for me, and I think this is in personal opinion, not representing the bank's opinion on this, is that what we can see is there will be no questions on Bitcoin as an asset class. I think it will become it'll come really fast now because it's been 16 years in the making, and a lot of you might not know this, like Bitcoin is not the first of the lot of the cryptocurrency. Unfortunately, it's packaged and kind of said like that. It's 40 years in the making before the 16 years. So it's 56 years in the making, by the way. 40 years of prior technology progress has been there to kind of invent Bitcoin. Bitcoin was one of the last experiments that succeeded. So there's some history there. So if you're thinking this is like a 16-year-old play, no, it's a 56-year-old play if you really look at and study Bitcoin. So I think what's going to happen is fundamentally Bitcoin as a technology will enable a lot of humanity to start measuring GDPs. So unfortunately, we have not had a measurement tool between countries or between trade partners. So we've had the metric system. We've had the ruler to measure your kilometers or miles. You have the liters to actually, or meters, liters, and all of these are unit metric systems. So think of Bitcoin less of a coin, less of a cryptocurrency, but more as a measuring tool. And that measuring tool basically helps you create parity between two trading partners. Those two trading partners could be two companies or two country nation states. So effectively, especially this makes a lot more sense today, or I mean yesterday, looking at all the tariff and deficit questions that are being talked between the political leaders across the globe. So imagine there is no way to measure between two countries, how much did I trade for, what kind of tariff do I put in. There is no system. It's basically driven by a lot of different agendas from two political nations. But for the first time in humanity, you will have an ability to fairly trade between two countries because they're all measuring their wealth without manipulating their respective currencies. You know, so this is going to drive a very different kind of an order altogether, where the whole question of wealth, I mean, wealth has existed, but there has never been a metric system to measure wealth in a fair way across multiple countries. That's what Bitcoin really brings and unleashes. So in a time period of next 5, 10, 15 years, humanity will reorganize by having this new instrument to start measuring a standard unit of human economic output. And that will standardize a lot of things that we are not used to. So you can almost think of it as like the change that comes after inventing and dispersing the knowledge around a metric system. That's what we're on to.
Sagun, I really like that framing. That's incredible. Bitcoin as more than a 16-year experiment. It's a 50-year experiment. And coming very soon, we're going to see a complete realignment with Bitcoin as like a measuring stick that hasn't existed before. Fascinating. All right, Sagun, Levi, thank you so much. Really enjoyed your insights today. And yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for everyone for listening. See ya.
Thank you.